Between these two numbers, who are you giving player of the month to? I think it could have been Caitlin Clark. I think it should have been Caitlin Clark. Kelsey Mitchell undoubtedly had a great month. I'm not going to take it away from her, but what's the more valuable piece of the car, the engine or the exhaust, right? What's underneath the hood, or what's, you know what I'm saying, or the interior? What's underneath the hood? If what underneath the hood isn't working, well, that interior is just gonna sit there. It might be a nice interior, might be leather, might be.
That is the argument ripping this award apart. Kelsey Mitchell scored more, Caitlin Clark controlled more, and won.
Well, if you thought that, wrong. Kelsey Mitchell, a historic month for Kelsey Mitchell. She is the WNBA Eastern Conference Player of the Month for July. 27.2 points per game, nearly 50% from the field, over 46% from three, 2.8 assists per game. Now,
Kelsey Mitchell is officially the Eastern Conference Player of the Month for July, and nobody can call that award undeserved. 27.2 points per game, nearly 50% shooting from the field, and more than 46% from three is an absurd scoring month. That is not a sympathy trophy. That is not a Lifetime Achievement Award. Mitchell was destroying defenses, but the controversy starts because Caitlin Clark had already won 2 of the weekly awards during that same month. Mitchell won 1. So when the monthly honor went to Mitchell, fans immediately asked a simple question. If Clark was judged to be the best player in the conference for more individual weeks, how did she lose the award covering the entire month? There may be a reasonable answer, but the part that should concern Clark fans comes later, because the same logic used here could become a preview of how voters handle the MVP race.
Yesterday, Caitlin Clark, your WNBA Eastern Conference Player of the Week for the 3rd time this season, going back-to-back. Player of the Week, 25.7 points per game, 53.7 field goal percentage, 9 assists, and 5 rebounds per game.
Those are Clark's numbers from her latest Player of the Week award. 25.7 points, 9 assists, 5 rebounds, and 53.7% shooting. That is elite scoring combined with elite creation. And creation is the key word, because Clark's value cannot be measured only by how many points appear beside her name. Every possession she initiates can produce points for somebody else. A pass to Mitchell for an open 3 does not increase Clark's scoring average, but it changes the game just as much as a made basket. That creates the central disagreement. Are these awards supposed to recognize the player with the most dominant individual scoring output, or the player who influences the greatest amount of offense? Mitchell has the cleaner headline number. 27 points per game jumps off the page. Clark's case requires you to look at several categories together. Her scoring, assists, efficiency, pace, defensive attention, and reduced minutes all have to be considered as one package. That makes the debate more complicated than 2 weekly awards versus 1. Weekly honors are snapshots. Player of the Month judges the full body of work. A player can win 2 separate weeks and still lose the overall award if another player was more consistent across every game or had the stronger total month. But that explanation only works if the monthly comparison clearly favors Mitchell. Once you look at the full numbers side by side, the choice becomes much less comfortable.
Caitlin Clark's month of July versus Kelsey Mitchell's month of July. Shout out to Millie for posting. I'm Millie Rock on any block. Shout out to Millie for posting the stats. 22.6 points per game. Months of July. There we go. Months of July. Caitlin Clark, 22.6 points per game, 4.3 rebounds per game, 7.5 assists per game on 59% effective field goal percentage, 68% true shooting, and 26.9 minutes per game. Caitlin Clark was averaging about 23 and 4 on 27 minutes.
Now we have the actual comparison. Clark averaged 22.6 points, 4.3 rebounds, and 7.5 assists in only 26.9 minutes per game. Her effective field goal percentage was 59%, and her true shooting percentage was 68%. Mitchell averaged roughly 27 points, 2.7 assists, and fewer than 2 rebounds while playing 32.6 minutes. Her effective field goal percentage was also 59%, with a true shooting percentage of 64%. That means Mitchell held the scoring advantage, and it was significant, more than 4 additional points per game. But Clark produced almost 5 more assists, grabbed more rebounds, scored with higher overall efficiency, and did it while playing nearly 6 fewer minutes each night. The minutes matter because per-game statistics can hide how much production a player generated while actually on the floor. Clark was putting up approximately 23 points and 8 assists in 27 minutes. Extend that workload to Mitchell's minutes, and the raw statistical gap begins to change. That does not automatically make Clark the winner. More minutes are not always a punishment. Availability, conditioning, and the ability to sustain production through a heavier workload are part of performance. Mitchell played those minutes and delivered. She should receive credit for that. But voters cannot celebrate Mitchell's larger scoring total without also considering that Clark had less court time to accumulate statistics. Otherwise, they are rewarding volume while ignoring rate and roll, and this is where the award becomes a philosophical vote. Mitchell was the league's more explosive scorer in July. Clark was the more complete offensive system. Which one matters more?
Look, Kelsey Mitchell, the moment she found out she was Eastern Conference Player of the Month, Brianne January, ecstatic. She threw a parade outside. This is them.
We got an Eastern Conference Player of the Month.
Congratulations to Kelsey Mitchell. Congratulations to Kelsey Mitchell. She is earning that name, Money Mitch, back. She's earning it back.
The reaction inside the building tells you how much this meant to Mitchell. Her teammates and coaches were genuinely excited, and they should have been. She has spent years producing in Indiana, often without this level of national attention, team success, or recognition. That context matters. Mitchell did not suddenly become a great scorer because Clark arrived. She was already one of the most dangerous guards in the league. What changed is the environment around her. Now she has more space. Defenses are forced to extend farther from the basket. Help defenders hesitate because Clark can find the open player instantly. Transition opportunities arrive faster. Mitchell can attack a rotating defense instead of constantly creating against a set one. But that relationship works both ways. Clark benefits from having a scorer who can turn difficult possessions into points. When teams trap Clark, Mitchell becomes the release valve. When Clark's outside shot is not falling, Mitchell can carry the scoring load. When a defense sends two players toward the ball, Mitchell punishes the opening before the defense can recover. So framing Mitchell as merely the beneficiary of Clark's presence would be unfair. She is converting those opportunities at a historic level. Plenty of players receive open looks. Very few average 27 points while shooting 46% from three. The most accurate description is not that one player created the other. It is that their skills magnify each other. Clark creates advantages. Mitchell finishes them. Mitchell's scoring forces defenses to loosen their coverage. That gives Clark more room to operate. The irony is that their partnership may also split individual recognition. When both guards dominate, voters must decide which part of the machine deserves the award.
Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell played so well. Such a dynamic duo in the backcourt that it had Stephanie White get Coach of the Month. You know how good you must be as a backcourt to convince people that Stephanie White is deserving of Coach of the Month? Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark should split that award. Co-Coaches of the Month. Caitlin Clark and Kelsey.
The host jokes that Clark and Mitchell should split Coach of the Month because their play made Stephanie White look deserving. Beneath the sarcasm is a serious point about how awards shape narratives. Indiana went 8-2 in July. When a team wins at that rate, credit usually gets divided among the stars and the coaching staff. The guards receive player awards. The coach receives recognition for the record. The organization gets praised for finding a winning formula. But coaching awards are not supposed to mean the coach personally produced every successful possession. They recognize management, preparation, rotations, adjustments, and results. White's job was to put the roster in positions where its strength could decide games. That includes managing Clark's minutes, organizing an offense around two high-usage guards, and finding ways to keep Mitchell aggressive without turning Clark into a spectator. Those responsibilities are more difficult than they look. Two elite offensive guards can coexist badly. One can dominate the ball while the other disappears. Their preferred tempo can conflict. Defensive weaknesses can become impossible to cover. Shot distribution can create resentment. The fact that Indiana's backcourt produced this efficiently while winning 8 of 10 games reflects more than raw talent. Fans may dislike certain rotations or late-game decisions, and those criticisms can still be valid. Coach of the Month does not erase every questionable timeout, substitution, or defensive scheme. It simply means voters believed Indiana's July results were the strongest coaching achievement in the conference. The comedy comes from the gap between how supporters view the team and how award voters view it. Fans often see Clark and Mitchell rescuing possessions. Voters see a successful team coached to an 8-2 month. Both interpretations can contain some truth.
And then we have Coach of the Month. Stephanie White led us to an 8-2 record in July and was named WNBA Coach of the Month. You take a look at Stephanie White's stats. She averaged 347 per week. She averaged closed fists 6 times per day. When it comes to the games, she averaged her arms crossed about 33.7 minutes per game. When it came to her arms on the folded on the sides like this, 6 minutes per game. She sat on her bench chomping on her gum about 13 minutes per game. And the most impressive stat of them all.
The exaggerated statistics about folded arms, gum chewing, clenched fists, and sideline movements are obviously jokes, but they capture the frustration some Fever supporters still have with White. Winning has not ended the debate over whether Indiana is maximizing its roster. Every loss becomes a referendum on rotations. Every scoring drought raises questions about offensive organization. Every stretch with Clark on the bench becomes a social media emergency. That is the reality of coaching the most scrutinized team in the league. White is not evaluated like a coach guiding an ordinary contender. Every possession is replayed, clipped, and argued over. If Indiana wins, Clark's brilliance gets the credit. If Indiana loses, the coach's decisions receive the blame. Coach of the Month pushes back against that one-sided narrative. An 8-2 record does not happen by accident, especially in a league where opponents repeatedly prepare for your primary actions. Once teams know what Clark and Mitchell want to run, the coaching staff has to add counters. The Fever also had to balance immediate success with protecting players over a packed schedule. Clark's 26.9 minutes per game in the July sample became part of the Player of the Month debate, but those reduced minutes may have helped maintain her efficiency and limit physical wear. That creates another contradiction. Fans can argue Clark would have produced larger totals with more minutes, yet the coaching staff may deserve credit for finding a workload that helped Indiana keep winning. The same decision that weakened Clark's raw award resume may have strengthened the team. This is why individual awards are never completely individual. Coaching affects minutes. Teammates affect spacing. Defensive schemes affect efficiency. Team record affects perception. The final vote compresses all those connected factors into one name.
Per game. You take a look at Kelsey Mitchell, 27 points, 2.7 assists per game, 1.9 rebounds per game, on 59% effective field goal, 64 shooting percentage, and 32.6 minutes per game. Who is your Player of the Month? Between these two numbers, who are you giving Player of the Month to? I think it could have been Caitlin Clark. I think it should have been Caitlin Clark. Kelsey Mitchell undoubtedly had a great month. I'm not going to take it away from her, but
when the numbers are placed side by side, Clark's case becomes difficult to dismiss. Equal effective field goal percentage, better true shooting, nearly 5 more assists, more rebounds, fewer minutes. Mitchell's argument remains powerful because scoring 27 points per game at that efficiency is the hardest visible skill in basketball. A defense knows she wants to score, prepares specifically to stop her, and still cannot do it. The disagreement comes from how much value voters assign to playmaking. 7.5 assists can generate at least 15 points, and potentially more when those passes lead to 3-pointers. That means Clark was directly producing a massive amount of offense beyond her own 22.6 points. Not every assist is equal, of course. Some are simple passes before a difficult shot. Others break the defense and create an uncontested basket. Basic box scores do not distinguish between them. But Clark's passing threat changes the geometry of the floor before an assist is even recorded. A defender guarding Mitchell can focus primarily on Mitchell. A defender guarding Clark must worry about the shot, the drive, the transition pass, the lob, the cross-court skip, and the possibility that one aggressive step will open a teammate behind the defense. That pressure creates opportunities that do not always appear as assists. A trap can force the ball out of Clark's hands, followed by 2 more passes and an open shot. Clark receives no box score credit, but she caused the defensive rotation. Mitchell creates gravity too, especially during a month in which she shot above 46% from 3. Leaving her is not a viable option. Her movement pulls defenders away from the ball and makes Clark's passing windows larger. So the award may have gone to Mitchell because her contribution was easier to isolate. Her scoring was direct, spectacular, and consistent. Clark's contribution was distributed throughout the offense, and awards have always struggled to measure distributed value.
7.5 assists per game, really just ignored like that on top of the offensive production. A bad precedent. Now this person makes a good point right here. Less minutes, historic games, 7.5 assists per game. Agree it's a bad precedent. No knock on Kelsey Mitchell. She's been great. She has been. Unfortunately, this really hurts CC's chances of truly being in that MVP combo. It shouldn't, but
Now we reach the bigger concern: whether this decision damages Clark's MVP argument. One monthly award does not decide the league MVP. Voters examine the full season, and the competition is not limited to Mitchell. Clark would be compared with the strongest candidates across both conferences, including players whose scoring, rebounding, defense, efficiency, and team records may create completely different cases. But awards build a narrative. Player of the Week becomes Player of the Month. Player of the Month becomes an item on an MVP resume. When voters repeatedly choose another player from your own backcourt, critics can later argue that you were not even the clear best player on your team during that stretch. That argument would be simplistic, but it will be made. The counter is that teammates can split awards without reducing each other's greatness. Two players can perform at an elite level simultaneously. Mitchell winning July does not mean Clark was secondary. It means voters preferred Mitchell's scoring month by what was probably a narrow margin. The dangerous precedent is not that Clark lost. It is how the categories may have been weighted. If voters prioritize points and traditional counting totals over playmaking, efficiency, and minutes, that same approach could hurt Clark in a close MVP comparison. Imagine Clark facing a candidate who averages several more points and rebounds, while Clark holds a major assist advantage and directs a more explosive offense. July gives us a clue about which numbers might receive the greatest emphasis. But there is another possibility. Voters may have considered the emotional and historical context of Mitchell's month. She reached a scoring level that demanded recognition, and Clark had already collected multiple weekly honors. Award voting is not supposed to be about distributing trophies, yet human voters are aware of the larger picture. No official voter has said the award was divided to ensure both players received recognition. Without direct evidence, that cannot be treated as fact. Still, the outcome created exactly that balance. Clark owned 2 weekly awards, while Mitchell received the monthly honor. Whether intentional or not, Indiana's stars both walked away celebrated.
Yeah, this is going to be very similar to her stats going up against Asia's stats. How much are they going to weigh the assists per game versus the rebounds per game and the slightly better scoring average? How much is that going to weigh in these extremely biased minds of the voters? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section.
The host points directly toward a future comparison with Aja Wilson. And this is where the July debate becomes more than an argument between Fever fans. Wilson's value is built differently. She can dominate scoring, rebounding, rim protection, interior defense, and efficiency. Clark's strongest case is built around scoring plus elite playmaking and the transformation of an entire offense. Comparing them requires voters to decide whether creating baskets for teammates can offset advantages in rebounding and defense. There is no universal formula that settles that debate. Advanced metrics can help, but even those depend on methodology and context. Team success will matter. Availability will matter. Late-season momentum will matter. Head-to-head performances may influence perception even when they should count no more than other games. Media narratives will matter because voters are human beings following the season in real time. That is why calling the voters biased without evidence goes too far. A vote someone dislikes is not automatically proof of corruption or personal hostility. Mitchell had a legitimate winning case. The frustration comes from the lack of a transparent explanation. The league announces the recipient and publishes the statistics, but it does not release a detailed argument describing how voters separated 2 exceptional candidates. Fans are left to reverse engineer the reasoning. Was it the 4-point scoring advantage? Was it Mitchell's heavier workload? Was it her 3-point percentage? Was it consistency across the entire month? Was it the belief that Clark's shorter minutes reduced her total impact? We do not know. Transparency would not eliminate disagreement, but it would improve the conversation. Even a simple voting breakdown would show whether the decision was close or overwhelming. If Mitchell won by a narrow margin, Clark supporters could understand that both cases were respected. If the vote was a landslide, then questions about how playmaking is valued would become even more important. Without that information, everyone projects their own assumptions onto the result.
Now, a lot of debate that I saw on Twitter yesterday, who's going to get Player of the Month? A lot of people were saying, well, they gave Caitlin Clark Player of the Week, so they're going to give Kelsey Mitchell Player of the Month. Some people are saying, wait, but Caitlin Clark has won 2 Player of the Month awards in July. Kelsey Mitchell's won 1, 2 greater than 1. Caitlin Clark's won 2 Player of the Week awards in the month of July. Kelsey Mitchell's won 1, 2 greater than 1. So just basic reasoning, you'd think that Caitlin Clark would get Player of the Month as well, right?
This is the piece of reasoning that initially fueled the controversy. Clark won 2 weeks, Mitchell won 1, therefore Clark should win the month. It feels logical, but it is not automatically correct. The boundaries of weekly awards do not perfectly match a player's total monthly performance. One excellent game can swing a weekly honor. Schedule strength varies. The number of games played can vary. A player may finish second every week and still have the strongest full-month resume. Think of it this way. Player A could have 2 spectacular weeks and 1 quiet stretch. Player B could remain outstanding from the first game through the last. Depending on the numbers, Player B might reasonably win the month despite holding fewer weekly trophies. The proper question is not who collected more smaller awards. It is who had the better complete July. That is why the direct statistical comparison matters more than trophy arithmetic, and that comparison produces a genuine toss-up rather than a robbery. Mitchell's side can say she scored at a level Clark did not reach, carried a larger minute load, shot 46% from 3, and remained the team's most dependable pure scorer. Clark's side can say she was the more efficient all-around offensive player, created far more baskets for teammates, contributed more on the glass, and produced her numbers in substantially fewer minutes. Both cases are real. The outrage becomes less convincing when one side pretends the opposing argument does not exist. But recognizing Mitchell's case does not require ignoring what Clark's loss reveals. The award shows that elite playmaking does not automatically outweigh elite scoring, even when the playmaker is also scoring more than 22 points per game. That is the actual precedent, and it will matter again.
She won that award in a landslide. Now let's take a look at this.
And one more thing,
Look.
we got Coach of the Month.
Look, I
And
don't know
one
why
more
this isn't
thing, we
possible.
got Coach of the Month. And one more thing, we got
Brianne January is stoked. Look at Brianne January. Brianne January's like, yes! Woo! Woo! When it was Caitlin Clark Player of the Week, it was. But Stephanie White Player of the Month, woo! Brianne January's about to do it.
The difference in staff reactions is played for comedy here, with Brianne January appearing far more animated for the coaching announcement than for Clark's award. A short clip cannot prove favoritism, resentment, or anything happening inside the locker room. Reactions can be edited, taken out of sequence, or shaped by what happened before the camera started. Treating a few seconds of body language as definitive evidence would be irresponsible. But fans read into these moments because Indiana is no longer covered like a normal basketball team. Every facial expression becomes a storyline. Every celebration is compared. Every bench interaction is analyzed for hidden meaning. That level of attention can become unhealthy, especially when people begin inventing conflict where none has been publicly confirmed. Clark, Mitchell, White, and the coaching staff all benefit from winning. There is no rational reason for the organization to oppose one of its own stars receiving recognition. The more compelling story is not whether one coach celebrated loudly enough. It is that Indiana collected awards across multiple levels in the same month. Clark won consecutive weekly honors. Mitchell won Player of the Month. White won Coach of the Month. The Fever went 8-2. That is what organizational momentum looks like. Individual debates become louder because the team is finally good enough for its players and coaches to compete for major honors. For years, Indiana's conversations centered on rebuilding, draft position, and whether its young talent could become competitive. Now the argument is which Fever superstar deserved a conference award. That is an enormous shift. The danger is allowing individual award debates to turn two complementary stars into fictional enemies. Clark does not become less valuable because Mitchell was recognized. Mitchell does not need Clark's case diminished to justify her trophy. Their partnership is the reason this debate exists.
Below, like the video, hype the video, subscribe to the channel. That would mean so much to me. Shout out to Caitlin Clark, Player of the Week. Shout out to Kelsey Mitchell, Player of the Month. And shout out to Stephanie White, setting a record with 14,762 tweaks during the game. Unreal.
So what is the real answer? Kelsey Mitchell's award was defensible, but Caitlin Clark had the stronger all-around case. Mitchell owned the clearest individual category. She scored nearly 5 more points per game while maintaining exceptional efficiency and handling a larger workload. For a Player of the Month award, that can be enough. Clark, however, influenced more areas of the offense. She scored efficiently, created almost 5 additional assists per game, rebounded better, and generated her production in far fewer minutes. When scoring and playmaking are evaluated together, her total offensive contribution appears greater. That does not make the result a scandal. It makes it a statement about voter priorities. The voters appear to have valued Mitchell's scoring dominance more than Clark's broader creation advantage. And if that preference continues into the MVP discussion, Clark may need either a larger scoring average, a stronger team record, or an undeniable late-season run to overcome candidates with bigger traditional totals. The good news for Indiana is that this is the kind of controversy winning teams want. One guard was named Player of the Month. The other had a statistically credible argument that she should have won it. Their coach received recognition because the team went 8-2. The bad news for Clark is that assists and offensive control can become invisible when placed beside a bigger scoring number. Her impact is obvious when you watch the games, but awards are often decided by the statistics voters value most. July may have shown us the hierarchy. Scoring comes first. Playmaking can close the gap, but it may not erase it. Now the choice is yours. Did Kelsey Mitchell's 27-point scoring explosion make her the rightful Player of the Month? Or did Caitlin Clark's efficiency, 7.5 assists, and lower minutes give her the better overall case? Pick one, explain why in the comments, like the video, and subscribe for the next breakdown.